So in this video we're going to be talking about social media as well as what is social media causing us to behave like, as well as our thinking, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So basically the conscious mind is something you do consciously, as in like right now I'm consciously recording this video and you would be watching it. And the subconscious is basically something you don't notice that you're doing, so some kind of a behavior that is happening subconsciously, or things we have picked up subconsciously during our day-to-day life. In this video I'm going to be going over a lot of different topics regarding social media. I'll be definitely time-stamping this video into different parts. I want to explore a whole variety of different topics in terms of social media, how it changes your thinking, as well as how to solve these issues, information that social media kind of spreads, and how it affects our lives. Anyways, let's get to the video itself. So first of all, let's talk about social media perception. So what that means basically is we perceive things through social media a certain way, and we perceive things in real life a certain way. So when we spend a lot of time in social media, what ends up happening is we get this unrealistic perception of the world, and then through that we start thinking in certain ways. So I'm going to go into the thinking next, but what I wanted to touch on is the perception change. And so once we are in the social media space, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, we watch all these people because we see both the outliers in terms of like the people who are at the top and the bottom to an extent, but mostly the people at the top. So we get this unrealistic perception of the world, and if you're not the type of person who goes outside a lot, let's just say, you're going to end up thinking a certain way. You're going to start thinking like the world is like this, everybody's like fitness is a good example. You see the top tier fitness bodies, you're going to start thinking that everybody is like in top 0.1% shape or 1% shape, when in reality when you go outside you actually see how realistic that is, which is that it's not realistic. Most people are in average shape, or even obese, or just really skinny. Like most people are not in good shape. It's only a couple of people that are even in like decent shape that you see outside most of the time, and it's very rare to see somebody who's very well in shape. I think social media kind of takes that perception and very unrealistic as to what to expect of the real world. A lot of people change their thinking to match this social media perception, and they think only through that, and they can't think of in realistic terms what the world is like and what is happening in the world and what happens when you go outside and see people. So they end up thinking and perceiving things through social media as like the reality, and that like a lot of like women do the thing where they kind of look at men in social media who are successful, and then they think they should find somebody like that easily in real life, because it's like that's all they see, because they don't go outside enough. But then once they actually go into the real world, they realize perhaps that their own beauty is not as high as they thought it was, because they got validated through social media, as well as those men that they're looking for don't really exist, at least where they live, and there's not many of them, if any. So I think social media kind of distorts this perception of in different areas of life, whether it's in dating, like achievement, fitness, whatever. It distorts reality in big ways, and so people start perceiving the world in a way where that all these things are possible and that these people exist, when in reality they don't really, or they're a very small percentage that you never really see. And this is a big topic in this video, is changing your thinking and how social media changes your thinking. And I want to go over multiple points in this specifically. So first of all, let's talk about subconscious behaviors. So as I said in the intro, subconscious behaviors is something you don't really notice, or that happens in the subconscious mind. It's not something you do consciously. So the way social media affects your subconscious behavior is basically you watch all this content, and in some ways it goes into the subconscious mind, and you kind of in the back of your head you have this knowledge and experience that you gained from perhaps watching some kind of informational knowledge in social media, maybe it's YouTube or TikTok, and it goes into your subconscious, or that just some kind of opinions or ways of thinking goes into the subconscious mind. And you, in the back of your mind, you kind of remember all these things, and so it kind of changes the way your brain is thinking about certain situations, perhaps. And this is where kind of the perception thing comes into play as well, is you perceive things differently because you've learned something and it sticks into your subconscious and your kind of stored knowledge in your brain. Now the way I would solve this specific issue would be, if you're struggling with like subconscious thinking, then what you need to do is you need to remember what the world is actually like, and you need to differentiate opinions, knowledge, and all these different things and form your own view, and just not take everything for granted and just listen to people on social media. Now another thing is content that relates to you. A lot of social media platforms use the algorithm to push out content that would relate to you, and that can change the way you're thinking. So about like whether it's opinions or political views, a lot of these things work through social media to create this image that you want in your head and that you are agreeable with. So it makes you feel better about your reality that you live in. Maybe you're even living wrong in a sense, or in your own perception world. So you have to kind of expand yourself to get rid of this mindset. And then next would be making you think it's okay to not try. So basically this just means that a lot of people search for certain types of content on social media, like, oh, I'm 30 years old and I haven't achieved anything. And then they watch these videos, they relate to them, and then they comment like, yeah, I'm the same, I relate to you. It's like, what's the point? Like, you could just go out and achieve something. I feel like there's a lot of content that gives you a reason not to try because somebody else failed, or they're not trying, or they maybe haven't achieved something by a certain age. Then a lot of these people make these videos and then people relate to them and they feel better about themselves not doing anything, or like not doing anything, being lonely, being depressed. Like, you're not changing your situation, you're just kind of wallowing in this woe is me mindset in these situations instead of actually changing for the better. So I would say, to get rid of this, again, don't watch these kind of videos, stop with the woe is me mindset and change your life. Another thing is just wasting time. Social media is a huge waste of time if you don't use it effectively. I'm going to go into some healthy methods of using it, but just I wanted to give a quick note on this. Just social media can be a huge waste of time if you just spend all your time and attention on it. So value your attention and don't spend all your time just watching entertainment content and scrolling. If you create content yourself, then the best way, for example, on TikTok, avoiding scrolling is getting the idea, make the content, get out of the platform. Like post and forget, basically, kind of strategy. So you end up not wasting so much time. Only watch content that actually advances you intellectually. That's what I do anyways. I mostly watch content that gives me new ideas, or it advances something that I'm thinking about, or advances my knowledge or skills. That's the type of content I mostly watch. Very rarely I watch some kind of entertainment, maybe if I got nothing better to watch and I'm like doing cardio at the gym. That's a bit different. I'm doing something productive. So I'm just like looking at something else while I'm doing something productive. So those are the situations where I would say that wasting time watching entertainment videos is fine. Though I'm not saying watching entertainment ever is a bad thing. I think entertainment has its place for sure, and sometimes it's good to take time off. Next would be using social media in healthy ways. So as I said, the best ways to use social media healthy is you use it to expand your knowledge and learn new skills. But in this, I would say avoid over consuming. A lot of people end up being addicted to self-improvement content and things like that, even fitness content, and they over consume what they already know instead of just applying the knowledge. Sometimes I think it's good to have a reminder, maybe like a reminder video about like just for motivation, or like to remind yourself of something. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to watch a video like that, or some kind of content. But I think for the most part you should be using it for enhancing your future self inherently, and not wasting time on social media, because it's very unhealthy, and as I said, you're wasting time. So yes. Now next is disconnection socially. So when you spend a lot of time on social media, you end up becoming very disconnected socially. Your thinking changes, as I said, a lot. You're probably going to be neglecting your social connections a bit more, and you're thinking you're being social by being on social media, but in reality you're not. You're not interacting with real human beings. A lot of people stare at their phone all day, and God knows how many people spend hours on their phone watching some kind of content per day. I certainly do not. Perhaps YouTube is the only thing where I spend some hours during the day maybe watching it, but I usually am watching productive videos, and I usually try to do something while I'm watching a video alongside it. That usually works for me. But I'm not perfect either. But disconnection socially is just, you kind of end up neglecting your social connections when you spend a lot of time on social media because you're thinking you're being social, but you're not. I think people know the difference between actually being social and not, but they kind of just end up drifting anyway into just the social media world and never getting out of it and disconnecting, becoming very atomized as a person, you could say. Adapt these certain mindsets and become, as I said, changing your thinking and opinions and the way you feel about the world. You may end up getting into these ideologies and cults and whatever. There's a lot of that going on, and you become a very bitter and hateful person, I feel like, when you don't go outside enough. Now, another thing is narcissism. I think social media inherently, it doesn't add narcissism. I think it just brings out the narcissism that is in humans inherently. I think when you post content on social media, especially like beautiful people, specifically genetically gifted people, I'm not saying everybody is narcissistic, but a lot of them become narcissistic as they gain this following and likes and whatever, which at the end of the day is just fake attention. But I'm gonna get into that in a second, but let's talk about narcissism first. You have already narcissistic people, and then you give them these tendencies and tools available, and they become even more narcissistic. And definitely start to notice, especially nowadays, the type of people who are very narcissistic, they start acting like it in real life. It kind of just enhances their narcissistic personality as well as their behaviors. So they end up becoming this person who only thinks about themselves, and they think they're the hottest thing on the block, you know, and they kind of think in a way where they're special when they're really not. So narcissism is a big thing that I think social media changes in us. I'm not saying it affects like that for everybody, but I think especially for like beautiful women, it's definitely the case, and some beautiful men as well, and so on. And this point also goes into superficial thinking. I think a lot of social media breeds this superficial thinking, especially looks-wise and wealth-wise, especially in women. I feel like women are very addicted to social media, so usually, and that changes their thinking to be more superficial, you know. I mean, looks do matter, of course, and things like that. We all know money matters in the world, but I think it goes way past just like a normal person caring about those things to an extent, but it goes like beyond, where it's like you have to be perfect. What these like women are looking, their standards go through the roof, or whatever. Like they're looking for something that is not reality. As I said, it changes your thinking and the way you think about reality in general. Next, I want to say a word about imaginary audience. So even if you gain a big following on social media, at the end of the day, those people are imaginary, and they don't inherently care about you, as well as doesn't matter how many numbers you have. Maybe you have 100k on Instagram. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Those people don't care about you, and all those likes and whatever, they don't mean anything. Like, people take it as validation, but at the end of the day, the attention doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make you a better person. It's like, it's meaningless. Like, it's this imaginary audience, like, basically doesn't really do anything for you. It's just like, I understand it in a business sense, maybe it can be useful, but like otherwise, and you know, it's like status nowadays. But at the end of the day, follower count doesn't really do anything for you at the end of the day. It's an imaginary attention and everything. Like, women are especially susceptible to this. They get these likes and attention from men, usually, and then they get this inflated sense of ego from getting likes and whatever, but then they go outside and they realize they don't actually gain as much attention as they thought they would compared to social media, because social media distorts the reality, because you can post these perfect pictures, get this attention, and then you don't actually get any in real life. So their sense of reality gets completely perceived differently, and they don't understand it, and then they start craving that attention in real life, but they realize they can't get it as easily as they can in social media. So they keep being addicted to social media to get that attention and validation that they don't really get in real life, because people don't actually give a damn about you at the end of the day. Now, another thing is false advertising and image. So I think a lot of people falsely advertise products, especially influencers and whatever, and they don't actually stand by these products, or they advertise it even though they are not maybe healthy products, or the product itself they don't really care about. They just take the sponsorship to make some money. I think there's a lot of that false advertising going on. I think a lot of people can see through it, false advertising, but there's also a lot of people that are just susceptible to just getting a lot of false advertising in their life, and then they might buy these products and end up wasting their money and time and being disappointed. And I think there's a lot of false images also created of like different things like fitness and wealth, as well as hardships in life and things like that, because everything's so perfect in social media. So it creates this false advertising and sense of image, and that can change the way you think about life as well, because you only see the hard stuff, or you see the worst. You kind of see the extremes. You don't really see any balance. It's either the worst or the best that you see in social media. So you never see reality really as it is. Now another thing is in social media is information spread. Information spreads very fast through social media, and there's a lot of false information that spreads very fast as well. People can put whatever opinion they want through social media, and then people can listen to it and adapt to that, and then they start believing, because a lot of these people, influencers, have cults under them and these followers, and they believe everything they say, and then they only listen to that one influencer, and then they adapt this opinion without any evidence if it's correct or not. They don't have any identity or individual thinking. It's that group hive, social hive minds, thinking, and that's definitely a big problem. The way to solve it is obviously to build your own identity and sense of self and think for yourself, but I think this, for the majority, it seems to be a difficult task. Now next I want to talk about hypersexualization on social media. That's definitely a big problem. I think especially women are susceptible to being hypersexualized, especially, and even men to an extent, but mostly women, since women are more seen as like the sexual objects. There's a lot of this hypersexualization going on, and everything's, all these advertisements and pictures and whatever you see, you just kind of see hypersexualized media everywhere you go now. It's kind of, one could say, annoying and bad, and I know it's definitely bad for society, and it's definitely not good for future generations either, because they're going to be in this social media world a lot more because of new technology, so they're gonna receive that hypersexualized image all the time. The way to solve this for yourself, really, in the large scale, it cannot be solved simply by one person, so I'm not gonna talk about that, but for the individual, avoid hypersexualized media if you're a man especially, and just stay true to yourself. Try to avoid social media platforms as much as possible, gather the information and knowledge you need, and then move on. I don't think it's that hard to avoid hypersexualized media if you just don't follow the certain kind of people or go into the different feeds where you would see that content. For the most part you can avoid it, and even if you do see it, you can still click away at the end of the day. So anyways, that's pretty much the end of the video. I just wanted to talk about all these different topics about social media and the way I think social media is causing a lot of issues for us. And I think a lot of these issues you could probably go in maybe even deeper, but for me I just wanted to go on like a good base level over all the issues and the way social media changes your thinking, as well as like all these different issues we have, and maybe open up your mind a little bit about maybe subconscious things you didn't even notice that you were doing because of social media. And I hope this video helped to open your mind. I'll definitely end up going deeper into another video, most likely into maybe a topic like hypersexualization or information spread, and maybe something like that for sure. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if there's a will, there's a way. Hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it. See you in the next video.